Welcome to the Fair Housing Insiders. We are so thankful that you joined us. And please remember to subscribe here on our YouTube channel or follow and like us on your favorite social media outlet, which you can find links to in our show notes for even more fair housing news and insights. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fair Housing Insiders, episode 95. Today, we are focusing on familial status. I'm your host, Jonathan Sarr, and we are joined today by Leslie Tucker. So we look forward to your insights on this topic. So last go around, we talked about sex and religion. So to kind of set the stage for our additional topic, familial status, on this, we're going to look at our scenario, and then we'll get your comments and feedback on it, Leslie.
Who was that on the phone?
That was Mr. Heckles, complaining again about the noise from Mrs. Green's kids in Unit 220 right above him. He's the only one making complaints, and I've never heard any noise when I've gone to his apartment when he calls to report it. I don't know. Should we send a lease violation notice to Mrs. Green?
So that was interesting. So, Leslie, how do you deal with noise complaints from a resident who clearly doesn't like children?
Yeah, and I'm sure that this is not an uncommon scenario at a lot of properties. And the answer is pretty simple. You would deal with it the same way that you would deal with any other noise complaint. The fact that, the neighbor upstairs happens to have children really shouldn't be a consideration in how you deal with the complaint. Excessive noise is excessive noise, regardless of whether the noise is coming from, adults or from kids. So a landlord should kind of take the normal steps, try to substantiate the noise or whether it's excessive, issue lease violation notices if it's appropriate, maybe make suggestions to the tenants on how to reduce noise if it's, becoming an issue, possibly even offer to transfer the individual who's complaining. So these types of steps, none of them are really different because the noise is being caused by children. And it'll be important to show that you kind of took consistent steps to handle the noise, regardless of whether, it was from a family with children or just, without children.
Got it. Thank you so much. So is it illegal to choose to rent or sell to someone because they have children over someone who doesn't?
Well, families with children are protected under the Fair Housing Act. So, most people know, no, you cannot make tenant-related decisions based on whether someone has children. However, families without children are not a protected category. And I apologize for the double negative there, but there's no other better way to say it, I don't think. So if a landlord chooses not to rent to a household because they have no children, it's not necessarily a violation of the law, at least, due to familial status. That doesn't mean that, that's a safe action on other bases. There could be other protected categories involved. But when it comes to familial status, households without children are not protected.
Got it. Thank you for that explanation. So one more question for you. So if the lease agreement states that there's an extra charge for additional persons living in the home, can they enforce that if the resident adopts a child or has a baby in the middle of their lease?
Well, I haven't heard of this practice before, but this policy would effectively charge more for a family with children than a family without children for the exact same unit. So even though the policy on its face is neutral. It doesn't actually mention anything about children. When you put it in place and, in practice, the policy would arguably have a disparate impact against households with children. And I'm basically talking about kind of a rental fee, not necessarily utility fee, because obviously the more people in the unit, the higher utilities tend to be, which is fine. That's based on usage. But just based on the number of people in the household, really, that would be very risky to have a policy that charged more per person for the same unit.
Got it. Well, I appreciate your insights as always, Leslie. Another great episode in our series of protected classes. And today talking about familial status. So episode 95. So thank you, Leslie, for joining us. Thank you to everyone in our fair housing community. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to hear your feedback about today's episode. Do you have a topic that you would like to see discussed in a future episode? Feel free to share that with us. In the show notes, you'll see a link to sign up for our newsletter. This newsletter will keep you up to date with our latest episodes, blogs, and information about our online fair housing courses. Thank you again, and happy training.